mean like the insane asylum has let most of its inmates out today.
You want me to love you for trying to intimidate my children with your filthiness? Yeah, I'm going to vote for that, aren't I? Wake up. Repent. Turn to Jesus.
It's not about getting straight.
It is.
No, it's not. It's about accepting people for who they are.
No, it is
You can
not.
say it's their choice, but everything is everything.
Fascists! Fascists! Fascists are ignorant! Look at you! You cannot have two.
When I joined this movement back in '72, it was called Gay Liberation. It was a liberation movement. And we had found each other in the course of other struggles, the civil rights movement, the feminist movement, the anti-war movement. And then we began to fight for our own rights.
For me, activism is not oh, I should do this, or oh, I really want to go out and protest, or I want to make my voice heard. It's a compulsion. It is a conviction. It's something that I have to do.
You know, we're not going to get what we want with a march. We're not going to get what we want by electing our own. We're not going to get what we want by writing checks to friendly legislators. We're not going to get what we want by sitting in and getting arrested. We're not going to get what we want by picketing or writing letters to the editor. But if we do all of those things over and over and over, relentlessly, with every bit of strength we can find, then we'll win. It takes a lot of work. I'm old. I've been around. I've seen these little bursts of activism, and usually after a couple weeks they diminish and disappear and don't amount to much of anything. That's not what's happening now. It's a new chapter in the history of our struggle.
Marriage makes people happier in life. People tend to live out long-lasting lives when they're married.
You know, it's a relationship that you have with somebody that you know that you could do things with, ups and downs and all the struggles and fun stuff.
I think it's the biggest commitment you can ever make in your life. So make sure you find the right one to make it with.
Definitely. I wouldn't want it any other way. If you fall in love, you follow your heart, and marriage is a commitment that you make. It's not the part of saying that you want to be married, it's feeling that you want to be married because you want to be with that person forever.
I got married October 12th, 2008. I wasn't the stereotypical girl who planned her fantasy wedding. I never really thought I wanted to get married. I didn't understand what the big deal was. As long as you love the person, isn't that all that matters? But when I met Steve and we started dating, I fell in love, and I knew a few years in that my thoughts were changing. And it wasn't until we got married that I realized marriage really is more than just a piece of paper. It's an overwhelming feeling that words can't begin to describe, and I want everyone to be able to experience the same feeling. And so, within a month of my wedding, the dream that I live, that I share with so many, would be denied to others solely because of whom they love.
But all my ghosts lay down and died.
On November 4th, 2008, America voted in the first African-American president. I remember feeling so excited when I heard he won. Obama, the first Black president of the United States. I was so excited that America was moving forward, and I was part of Sadly, on that same night, California and Arizona passed propositions that constitutionally define marriage as between one man and one woman only.
Let things flow where they must go into the dark unknown.
I think that we were both really shocked when it actually qualified. Everyone kept telling us that, oh, California is such a liberal place, and you know, no way, not in California. This couldn't happen in California. California, everyone's treated equally. You know, California is different than other places.
I mean, Prop 8's heartbreaking. And it filled me with a sense of dread. And I had been paying attention to the numbers, and I knew everything was close.
I started getting calls from my friends saying that Prop 8 was ahead. And I was just blindsided by it. I totally didn't expect it. And, you know, caught in that moment where I was so excited about the election of Obama, who, you know, reflects so many of my values, and so excited about what it means to elect a black person to the White House for the first time in history. And to see the whole country move forward, you know, to the left and really move forward around civil rights and around social justice, and then to see that California, the state where I had come to, where I thought that it was a place where I could be equal, was moving to the right while the rest of the country moved to the left.
102 was an amendment that said, in Arizona, we're going to define marriage between one man and one woman. And it was called the Yes for Marriage campaign, which I don't understand. So it was, I guess, a good title for an amendment that the title didn't represent it at all.
102 was just a vote of hate, in my opinion, because marriage between a man and a man and was illegal. 102 was not going to change that. It was just reinforcing it.
So ideally, this amendment, once added, was going to permanently take away any chance. I mean, I didn't have the right to get married prior to the amendment. But once this amendment was in, it was going to take away my chance of ever being recognized as an equal and valid citizen in the state of Arizona.
It didn't surprise me that Arizona, my own state, would pass a law like this, but California, where the California Supreme Court had legalized same-sex marriage just 6 months before Prop 8 had passed? Being a newlywed, I could completely empathize. What if Arizona had come to Steve and I and said, whoops, we made a mistake, just kidding, you're no longer married. That's exactly what happened in California. 18,000 same-sex couples were married in those 6 months, and now they didn't even know if they were still married. Couples like Frank and Joe. Whatever happened to? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why aren't there more straight people out there that feel like I do?
Joe and I, we've been together 9 years now. It'll be 9 years next month in June. We met at the Gay Pride Parade in San Francisco in 2000. And yeah, we've been together ever since. We've been in a committed, monogamous relationship. When the Supreme Court ruled on May 15th, it was like the happiest day of my life. I cried. I literally cried for 2 days straight, actually.
We both kept breaking down in tears, actually.
Yeah. I mean, when I first heard of it, of course, I got a text from a friend saying we won. Jojo called and crying that we won.
Even though we'd worked for 5 years or more to get to the point that we had gotten to, deep down in our minds, deep down inside, and we'd been raised to believe that we would never get married in our entire lifetime.
Growing up and even like, what, 10 years ago or Well, 9 years ago when we first got together, we thought we'd never see
was
marriage
not
in our lifetime.
In our mindset, so that we would actually see it in our lifetime. And even though we fought for it, and even though, in some ways, I think we were driven and believed in it, in achieving it. When it actually happened, it was just this completely other thing. I mean, it was just completely.
It was amazing.
Got married June 17th. The first day that marriages were possible for couples to get married in California. We weren't waiting anymore.
You know, I wanted a wedding with friends and family and, you know, a reception.
And a car.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, so.
You know, yeah.
And we did a good job, too, in planning the.
we did a really great, all of our friends actually, like, came together and sort of helped make it happen for us. You know, our extended family all came together, and so it was pretty special.
Yeah.
It was really wonderful.
And we had a reception at our house, and you know, our neighbors all came, and it was great. It was beautiful.
Immediately after the November election, there was an explosion of grassroots groups forming all over the nation, fighting for marriage equality. Everyone was shocked that California passed Prop 8. And the thought was that if California could pass a law like this, then laws like it could be passed all over the country. And until the gay community mobilizes and starts fighting for their rights, what's preventing it from happening?
And what ended up happening was we held Market Street for 2 hours, and the police had decided not to make any arrests that night of any of the protesters. So even though it was an unpermitted march, and obviously standing in the street for 2 hours is also unpermitted, there were no arrests made. That was November 7th.
We went out and shut down the 101 off-ramp right down here, downtown San Francisco. And we actually got, you know, we shut down for a good amount of time. We actually got a SIG alert, which is like what Caltrans puts out. Sort of a statewide bulletin about traffic conditions. So it was sort of us like, look at what we can do together instead of, you know, being on this permitted rally where like people sort of just go home and feel isolated. Like, look what we can do. After we got out of jail, that was when the ideal for the march to Sacramento was born.
3 days after it passed, Luis and I got together and organized a candlelight vigil as a way for people to mourn and say, we're going to move forward from here.
Everyone had their candle and it was kind of cold, and we kind of said, well, what do we do now that we're like sad and angry and upset? Like, what do we do from here? We sort of sat down and said, you know, here's these things that we wish we were doing and we're not doing it, and nobody else is doing it in this way. So we formed an organization called Human and Equal Rights Organizers.
And it is basically a community-run organization, and it empowers community members to do their own actions and have their own voice so that they never feel like their voice isn't being listened to again. They have an outlet to go to where they can have people that will help them form an action and write a media release and do things that they feel that they don't have the skills to do, so that they don't have to feel like they have to sit on the sideline and no one's listening to them. So that was formed after 102, and then Hero put on the November 15th rally in Phoenix and then began to do other things. The mission statement is service, action, visibility, and education. So Hero has monthly meetings, but then does graffiti busters and feeding the homeless and things like that, just to let people know, you know, we are everyday people and we want to give back to our community as well.
The more I thought about what had happened, the angrier I got. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. So I searched the internet to find groups that wanted to repeal Props 8 and 102. There were a lot of groups that wanted to repeal Prop 8, but none for 102 at the time. So I decided to start my quest in California. Searching the social networking sites, I came across a group from San Francisco called One Struggle, One Fight. They informed me of a few actions they were planning to promote the repeal of Prop 8. That's when I realized I had to turn to the thing that comes most naturally. I had to go out to San Francisco and film it. In the beginning of March, the California Supreme Court in San Francisco was hearing lawsuits seeking to overturn Prop 8. The night before, a candlelight vigil was held. Hundreds of people marched down Market Street from the Castro, the traditionally gay neighborhood, to City Hall.
Equal rights! Now! Equal rights! Now! Equal rights! Now! Equal rights! Now!
The next day, the hearing was broadcast live to a growing crowd outside of the courthouse. There were people from both sides of the issue protesting, but I wasn't expecting so many that were yes on 8. It was incredible to see the crowd growing and the tensions that came with it. The more I walked around, the harder it was to film. The Yes on 8 people were everywhere, and the hatred that was spewing from them echoed in my head for days. It made me so sick to my stomach, and at times I thought I was going to break down and cry. I was intent on trying to be neutral, so I just walked around and filmed. But as the day went on, it took all my willpower to keep from dropping my camera and picking up a No on 8 sign and joining them. The California Supreme Court now has 90 days to make their decision. To spread the word of marriage equality across the California Delta, One Struggle, One Fight planned a march in March called March to Sacramento. They walked 100 miles from Berkeley to the steps of the state capitol in Sacramento.
Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me round. Keep on a walking, yeah, keep on a talking, Lordy, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy, turn me round and keep on a walking, yeah, keep on a talking, yeah, marching up to freedom land.
One struggle! One fight! One struggle! One fight! Good afternoon, Sacramento, and one struggle, one fight. Thanks for being out here. How are your feet? How do you smell? I want everybody out here, look at the person next to you and smell them. If they smell terrible, it's because they've been walking for 5.5 days now from San Francisco to get here this afternoon.
LGBTQI, the queer focus in the fight. LGBTQI, the queer focus in the fight.
Since last Wednesday, we've been marching and carrying this message to anyone who would hear it, to the Supreme Court, to anyone who has ears, can read that we want Proposition 8 repealed. And I've basically heard stories that have broken my heart over and over again since Prop 8 was passed. But I've also heard stories that showed me what a strong, brilliant, unique, diverse community we have, and allies. And I want you to know, we've marched all over. We have gone from San Francisco to dirt roads with no names in the middle of the Delta in Sacramento. And I want to say, truly to you all, that we are everywhere. We are everywhere.
Is it hard to be out in this area?
Nah.
No?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Maybe if we were a little more loose, you know, maybe we would know we were gay or something, but no one even knows that.
Speak for yourself, Miss.
You're kind of loose, yeah.
Oh, I got that one right there.
So I guess I'd like to start by saying we're both 16, and we actually live in Santa Cruz. Wow. I'm Maya, and this is Joya. We did this march to march in solidarity with all the youth who are closeted and who could not be on this march. and also to represent the fact that youth are involved in this movement. Even if we can't get married right now, even if we're not old enough to get married, we still want to have the hope and dreams, and want to feel proud of the fact that we are lesbian or gay or bisexual, transgendered, intersex, or allies of queer people. We want to be proud of that, and we know that other youth are.
I think I'm hopeful. A measure of understanding, it needs to be set on both sides though, because if you've been raised in a society where, there's no out gay people in your immediate family or in, extended family, or you're a society of people that care about you and you care about, and everyone is saying in your church that, being gay isn't okay and gay marriage shouldn't happen, and it says it in your Bible, and it says it all. It's like it's not your choice that you were born there. So it's like we have to understand them too. Otherwise, this isn't going to work at all. But for some reason, both sides of this issue just have no understanding at all for each other. Besides a select few. And I think that the people meeting in the middle, it's the most important step.
I was raised in a family that has been a member of the Mormon Church since the 1840s. I just knew from an early age, eventually I'm gonna have to leave because I know their stand on gay people, and I knew I wouldn't be welcomed. But I still identify as Mormon because I believe in a lot of it, and I really like their sense of family and their sense of community. I think it's really great. I just don't like their views on gay people and how they treat women.
My parents are kind of hippie Mormons in a sense, so they're very open-minded, and they always taught us to be ourselves and to be individuals and to think for ourselves and make our own choices. So now it's kind of funny that I'm doing that, but my dad doesn't really approve of that. But I've been treated okay. I did have some people at church when I said I was going to move to San Francisco originally say, well, there's a lot of gay people there. I said, I know, and they don't care, so that's why I'm leaving. Bye.
This is the first time out of 9 years of our activism that I've ever walked alone. I'm going to try not to cry. Jojo's slowly losing his ability to walk. He only works part-time, and as a result, he doesn't qualify for health care through his employer, and private health policies cost too much for our working family because of his pre-existing health conditions. What's more, he is disqualified from public assistance because the state of California considers us legally married. The situation is devastating to me because I'm watching my spouse slowly lose his ability to walk, and I can't do anything about it. I work for an international union of elevator constructors, and my union refuses to recognize my domestic partnership or my legal civil marriage. They use the Defense of Marriage Act to justify denying equal treatment to my family. I'm sick of being treated as a second-class citizen. I pay the same union dues, I pay the same taxes as everyone else. It's time that all people are treated with dignity and respect, and we're not going to stop fighting for civil equality until we achieve it. Nothing more or nothing less. That's right. Thank you.
I'm a straight ally, and prior to the elections, I hadn't been involved in any politics or activism or anything like that, but the inequality and the injustice and the discrimination that I saw in Prop 8 passing made it really clear to me that everybody had to stand up, everybody had to do something, and so I had to become involved in some way. And so I called up Kip, and he said, how involved do you want to be? And I said, well, what do you need? He said, well, we're doing civil disobedience. Do you want to get arrested? Yes.
There's been so much beauty on this walk, and so many beautiful moments that we have encountered. I can't imagine a more beautiful group of folks to have marched with and to have arrived with here on these steps. I thank you. And I thank you, and I say thanks to the hundreds of folks that have stopped to just say hello, that have offered water, that have honked in support, that have told us that what we are doing is right. It is those moments that have enabled me to do one more step a couple of times. And a couple of times when people would turn around their car and come back and yell ugly things at a beautiful nun like this. It was those times, and I just say thanks to all the people that aren't here that I know you supported us to be here.
Decision day for the California Supreme Court finally came at the end of May. They took almost a full 90 days to come up with their decision after hearing the arguments back in March on the constitutionality of Prop 8.
Our Constitution! Whose Constitution? Our Constitution! One struggle! One fight! One struggle! One fight!
In the anticipation of the reading of the verdict, a group marched from the Castro to City Hall. The air was full of nervousness and doubt. It seemed like everyone knew, deep down inside, that they were going to uphold Prop 8, but honor the marriages of the 18,000 same-sex couples. And that is exactly what happened. There were a lot of mixed feelings that day. Both sides were angry and disappointed at the verdict. One side wants all gay marriage banned. On the other side, some people are allowed to be married and the others absolutely cannot be. In response, One Struggle, One Fight led the group into an intersection near the courthouse and created a human blockade.
We won't go without a fight. Equal marriage is our right. We won't go without a fight. Equal marriage is our right. We won't go without a fight. Equal marriage is our right. We won't go without a fight.
It was an amazing sight. They protested in the intersection while supporters gathered to cheer them on. Over 200 people were arrested that day.
Are you ready to get arrested?
I am. I'm just in here waiting.
Yeah, I heard it's going to be soon.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah, so how are your emotions today?
I don't think it's hit me yet. I think I'm so wrapped up in this action that I haven't let myself even think about it, about what it means. It probably won't hit me till tonight, and then I'll cry uncontrollably.
They say go back, we say fight back. They say go back, we say fight back. They say go back, we say fight back.
As I'm walking around filming, I keep thinking to myself, I wish I wasn't filming. I wish I could be sitting there with you. I care about this fight so much that I'm willing to be arrested.
We say fight back. We say fight back. We say fight back.
How are you feeling?
Well, I feel good after getting arrested, but then again, I'm sure reality will set back in another hour or so, and then I'll probably be upset again. But right now, I feel good that I just got let out of jail. That's for sure. I'm so naked.
We did it.
Oh,
yeah. We survived.
So I want to go home and just have a beer, but I mean, I'd rather be in the streets.
Our streets! Our streets! Our streets!
Are we heading to the Castro?
Yeah! Yeah! We're in the streets! Where we should be! Woo! Out of the jails and into the streets! Out of the jails into the streets! Out of the jails into the streets!
30 years after Harvey Milk was assassinated, we're still fighting in the streets for our rights. Why is it that we have to fight every single day in order to win our respect and our self-dignity? The courts don't want to hand it to us. The politicians want to tell us to wait and be patient, but we know better, right?
Later that summer, I found out about a week-long walk that was happening in Arizona. Finally, something happening in my own state. In August 2009, I filmed the Arizona Equality Walk. They walked 97 miles around the Phoenix area. 1 mile for every year Arizona had been a state without marriage equality. Meg Sneed had organized with a group called Soul Force, their national group. They got together and they organized it for the prior year.
For the second walk, we wanted all of our walkers to be local, so we started recruiting earlier.
Meg, yeah, Meg and I have been friends. We had our 5-year anniversary, and she discussed the value of having an ally do the walk. So she mentioned it. She brought it to my attention.
With Meg, it's just amazing. So when she asked me if I wanted to do it, there was not even a thought in my mind to tell her no.
When 102 came along, it pissed me off enough that I started getting really, really involved, and then that's how I got involved with HEROES, Human and Equal Rights Organizers, and then met Meg and Luis and everybody.
It is absolutely amazing to see so many people here with us for the last mile. It is unbelievable. I couldn't have imagined all of the people from all of the different groups that would come out and join us for our last mile or join us here in the park. I'm really glad that it's Saturday and the 97 miles are completed, and I am so proud of all of you guys for sticking out all of those 97.
It's a really valuable point to mention that it wasn't until, white people got involved that African Americans were given, rights, and until men got involved that women were given rights. So, it's realistic to expect that it's not until allies are going to get involved that the gay community is going to get the same rights. They're just not the majority of the population. So it's impossible without allies, support. So then it's kind of feels like a really valuable position and a certain amount of responsibility to kind of get that message out.
We plotted really poignant places that were pro yes on 102. And we said, we got to make sure we get all these places. And we only had 6 days, and we only had, so many miles. So we didn't get to get all the places we wanted.
We mostly stopped at city official offices and churches. Those were our 2 main focuses. Most of them went really well. Most of them were open to having the conversation, and they had a lot of really good feedback. And they were really impressed with the way that we approached them. And they said, this approach is very powerful, and you're talking about marriage equality, and the language that you're using is opening up the dialogue with us, and we weren't expecting it.
I was disappointed in the cities that did not make time to talk to us. If we took the time and the energy not to jump in a car and go talk to them, not to jump on a bike and go talk to them, but physically walk in 100+ degrees temperature to walk to a city and try and have a conversation with you, and you wouldn't take time out of your schedule, or you couldn't make time in a city government that has thousands of employees to at least have one of them meet with us.
Scottsdale Bible Church was the first church that we went to. It's almost like we started with the most challenging. I wasn't really sure how much I was going to talk about my own position as an ally instead of someone who's gay. And so I wondered at what point I would feel the need to differentiate. And it was at that church, because while they were very respectful, it kept coming down to marriages between one man and one woman, no matter what. I finally spoke and said, I just find it so difficult that, you don't know me, you don't know my boyfriend, what kind of people we are, if we love God, if we don't. But because he's a man and I'm a woman, you'll allow us to get married just because of that, no matter anything else about us. Even now I can feel myself getting a little emotional, because it was it just seems so obvious.
I thought it was very, very, very important for the people to see a couple that was together, that had been in a loving relationship for many, many years, and see in front of their faces what they were trying to take away, and also show them that we were absolutely no different than them and their significant other, wives, husbands, or whatever.
We handed out wedding cake in downtown Phoenix with a sheet of paper that was basically Jimmy and Paul's story.
There were a lot of people that took cake, and there were people who took the sugar-free version with just the paper, and that was great too.
I don't think I would have taken cake from people that looked like us. At that point of the day, we were really sweaty and dirty, but people did take it, and they had a good reaction.
Like, I still think it was nuts, and I think of the amount of stuff that we asked people to do in a week. It was nuts, but it's still necessary.
When you have that conversation, and when you go into Pet Boys and you're dripping wet in sweat, and they're like, I'm straight, and I think what you're doing is great, and thank you. I mean, that just gives you the mental boost that you need to keep going. And those conversations happened all along the way.
We walked in middle of August, and it was, I think, just crazy. Because you're walking in 110-degree weathers for, man, how many hours a day? And it's crazy because you wake up and it's already 100 degrees.
It was miserable.
The point of walking in August is to really make that statement that, yeah, we're crazy, but so is our state.
Thank you guys so much for coming out. Whether we walked 97 feet this week or 97 miles, we're all in this journey together. And together, the struggle for justice only goes in one direction. So thank you guys so much for your support today and throughout the week. And we hope to see some of you walking 98 miles next year.
In my quest to capture and spread the stories of the LGBT community's plight, what could be better than filming a national march in our nation's capital to see 200,000 people gather together from all corners of the nation, fighting for their rights.
If I love you.
would show up or not. I was never among them. And I thank you for being here on this beautiful day in our nation's capital. We have existed in every time, in every place, in every culture, in every land. And we are here today finally to say that we are equal. We are equal. We are equal in every respect. We are equal in the eyes of God, and soon will we be equal under the laws of this land.
The previous marches have been, kind of unfocused. They would have long lists of demands and then a whole weekend of parties and celebrations and concerts and circuit parties. And we're not doing that this year. We've got one demand only: equal protection under the law in all matters governed by civil law in all 50 states now. And we've succeeded in shutting down almost all of the parties. And we're putting the energy into workshops and seminars and trainings to inform young people and give them the tools they need to go home to all 435 congressional districts and do that hard work.
Obama, I know that you're listening. Are you listening? We will continue to push you and your administration to bring your words of promise to a reality. We need change now. We demand actions now. And to Barney Frank, we are putting more than pressure on this grass, and today this grass is ours. I love you all so much. Bless God and bless the gays.
For young people, I think, so many young people were so motivated by Obama's message, and then this situation with Proposition 8, to have on the same day this extraordinary victory and this really bitter, horrible defeat. And I think this was the first time that the younger generation, the new generation, understood how clearly how that so much of the freedom that I think they've taken for granted can be taken away like that. It was like a slap in the face.
The powers of the young minds and the youthful spirit have often been underestimated. But let us remember that it was the youth of yesterday that became the young adults of today that voted for the first African-American president of the United States of America. See, just as the Quakers helped liberate the slaves by operating the Underground Railroad, the white freedom fighters assisted the blacks during the Civil Rights Union, the Christians hid Jews from oppression during the Holocaust. I promise you today that it will be the LGBTQI youth and their straight allies that will bring us the equality that is so long overdue.
Historic opportunity has opened before us. I feel that a door opened over the past year with the passage of Prop 8, the election of Barack Obama showing us that real change is possible in this country, the film Milk coming out and informing a young generation of the history they were never taught in school. Our door's open. It's already swinging shut. We need to kick it open and march through and win, and now's the time to do it.
Throughout this journey, I found those like-minded people I was searching for. We connected. Dedicated people, gay and straight, walking for equality. Walking because we all deserve the same rights. Rights that Steve and I have as a heterosexual married couple. We pay fewer taxes. We pay less in insurance costs. Steve and I are allowed to adopt and foster children together. We have spousal privileges in court proceedings. We are entitled to each other's Social Security survival benefits. If Steve was from a foreign country, I could sponsor his citizenship just because we are married. There are 1,138 federal rights that Steve and I have just because we are married. Same-sex couples that are legally married do not have these same rights. I set out to make a film about marriage equality, but from the very beginning, I felt like I was crossing the line. From documentary filmmaker to activist. I used my camera to separate myself, but it turned out to be my voice. From behind the camera, I can spread the word. Just by holding it, I become an activist. So instead of fighting it, I embraced it. In August 2010, I joined HERO's annual walk to promote marriage equality yet again. 98 miles around northern Arizona. 1 mile for every year Arizona has been a state without marriage equality.
This is the ocean, and drinks it up with her eyes, smiling plain forever in a broken blue, in a silent breath your heartbeat.
I'm really grateful to Rachel and Diane for being here because you don't have but you are.
I'll never let you down. In a silent breath, your heartbeat, and all the heroes will be damned. Oh, damned. I'll never let you down. I'll never let you down. Angel. You up into the sky where no ocean view betrays the earth's secret sphere white light and the sun is no love that longs to hold you, throwing your shadow hands on your father's grave. In a silent breath, your heartbeat, angel. I'll never let you down. In a silent breath, your heartbeat, and we will carve out desert snow angels. Yes, I'll never let you down. I'll never let you down. Halfway there.
Yay, we're halfway. I walk to open communication with the communities of Arizona and to tell our stories. I walk because I want everyone to be as happy as me and to be able to marry the person they love. I walk because everyone in this country is equal. I walk because I am a straight ally. I walk for love. I never intended on telling my own story, at least not in this film. I fought the idea for a very long time, but I finally realized in order to tell their story, I had to tell mine in the process. Our lives are forever linked. The people I've met along this journey continue to fight. Small amounts every day and large amounts whenever possible. Along the way, bonds were strengthened and some even found love. So I continue to fight as well, and I'm going to continue to walk every year until Arizona has marriage equality. Are you?
Our master plan blew off my only right hand, and as soon as I feel it, I'll wink, you can call in the fireman. It feels like nothing's wrong, and my hand's off writing catchy songs in bodies as in souls. The parts are worth more than the wholes, and if I love you, if I love you, if I love you, we'll be fine. Because you love me, ooh, you really love me, yeah, you love me, always thinking of me, yeah, I made my plane. I am vacationing from pain, and as soon as I feel it, I'll call you up, you'll shoulder the blame. You've done nothing wrong, but our nights grow familiarly long in love as in war. You must relive what screwed you before, and if I love you, if I love you, if I love you, we'll be fine. Oh, if I love you, if I love you, if I love you, we'll be fine. No more plans for to guide you on. Anything goes, it's a time. I don't care, I don't mind. I can dodge bombs in real time.